move on to the contributed talks for the morning session. We have three speakers, and I would like to introduce our first speaker, Laurence from, from Luzon, Central Luzon State University. He will be talking to us about Kaalaman sa Agrikultura, communicating agricultural science information to rice farmers in Science City of Munoz, Philippines. And whenever you're ready, please go ahead. But I'm just going to remind you that we will be ringing the bell when the time is up for you to stop talking and when the Q&A session is over. So we have a 15-minute talk and a 5-minute Q&A session. And whenever you're ready, please begin.
Hello everyone, good morning. Okay. First, let me introduce my name. I am Laurence again from Central Luzon State University under the Information Management and Publication Unit of the Office of Student Affairs. And I am also an affiliate of the Department of English and Humanities. Currently, I am also the advisor of the student publication of the said university. For my talk, this is the title, Kaalaman sa Agrikultura, Communicating Agricultural Science Information to Rice Farmers in Science City of Munoz, Philippines. Kaalaman sa Agrikultura is a Filipino word which means knowledge in agriculture. First, let me discuss what is Science City of Munoz. Munoz is the first and only science city in the Philippines, and Munoz is what do you call this? But why we call it Science City of Munoz? The term Science City reflects its vital role as it hubs of research, innovation, and technologies, particularly in the agriculture sector and its allied fields. It also serves as a center for science-based government agencies in the Philippines that contribute to the agricultural progress, not just for the city, but also for the whole country. In the Science City of Munoz, we have several institutions that operates. Each of them has a significant contribution. We have the Philippine Rice Research Institute, which is dedicated for rice research and developing sustainable farming techniques to improve the quality of farming in the Philippines. We have also the Philippine Carabao Center, which focuses on the developing of livestock, particularly the carabao, a crucial animal in our agricultural economy. We also have the Philippine Center for Post-Harvest and Mechanization, which works on the reducing post-harvest losses and improving mechanization in the field of agriculture. We also have the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, which focuses on the sustainable management of aquatic resources. And finally, we have the university, which is the Central Luzon State University, which offers it plays a key role in agricultural education and research and offering advanced programs that produce high-skilled professionals in the said field. And then, from that institutions I have mentioned, who is our science communicator? Technically, or basically, the term science communication is not popular or known in the Philippines, specifically in our city. But we have the program offers by the university, which is the Bachelor of Science in Development Communication. It is close tied to the needs of agricultural community. Development communication graduates are expected to bridge the gap between the scientific knowledge and the farmers who directly benefits from it. Their roles extend beyond the simple sharing of information. They engage, empower, and ensure that farmers can apply that advancement in a daily basis. For instance, DevCom graduates can help rice farmers by simplifying complex scientific findings, whether it is related to crop protection, crop production, and sustainable practices to ensure that the knowledge is understandable and actionable. Again, we don't have science communicator. We have the we have the development communication practitioner. And the development communication, we have three majors. That is the development journalism, community communication, and science communication. All of that were facilitated during the program for 4-year program of development communication. And let's look at the difference between the mass communication and development communication program. In mass communication program, we have basically some of these subjects is media laws and ethics, multimedia production, and broadcasting. Basically, they are focusing on the media used for communication. But in development communication, we are audience-centered or development-centered. Actually, aside from the media laws, multimedia production, broadcasting, we also have that one. But we also have crop protection, crop science, and animal science, something like that. Communication really plays a significant role in the agricultural community, specifically in the Philippines, where it is the primary source of income. And effective communication ensures that scientific advancement in agriculture, such as new techniques, technologies, and even sustainable practices are understood and adopted by the community or by the farmers. Also, communication is not just about broadcasting information, it's about engagement and interaction with the farmers. Farmers need to have active participation in the learning process. For instance, through practical workshop where farmers can learn about innovative techniques directly in the field, where they can see or they can act or they can demonstrate and ask questions in real time. This hands-on approach helps to build their confidence in applying that new technology to their farming. Actually, we have utilized the social media platforms and even different communication strategies. But of course, we need to learn or know their preferences. Basically, we are conducting need assessment prior to come up with these communication strategies. In mass communication, again, we are focusing on the production of materials. But in development communication or in science electronics, we need to conduct need assessment for them to understand what we are talking about or what we are sharing about. Actually, I have research published this year. We have the e-farm in CLSU. E-farm is Engaging Food and Agricultural Resources Management Academy. It is an online platform that offers agricultural courses, and these courses are the technology or innovation produced by the university itself. I would like to share that the results show that the use of local language really helps the readers or the enrollees of that courses to, what do you call this? That the use of local language for teaching and instruction greatly affects their learning. They are more, they can understand more what the course is all about. And then, one key elements for this is after the development communication practitioner shared the information to some farmers, we have also the local communicators. That local communicators are basically the leaders or what they call this, head of the farming co-op, and from that, we often see that trust is significant barriers when it comes to communication. And they can only adopt that new technology if they have trust to the communicator. This is where local experts, community leaders, and even fellow farmers come into play. Local communicators, such as the leaders and fellow farmers, plays a crucial role in agricultural communication farmers are more likely to adopt these technologies when it was shared by their fellow farmers. Okay? The success of agricultural sciences information depends heavily on how well it is communicated to people. Also, how they adopt that information and use it in a daily basis. Since communication in agriculture must also foster collaboration between the agencies I have mentioned earlier, since this collaborative effort will help and make the agricultural sector or the agriculture sciences more accessible and relevant to the community. Also, they can use it in the real world and make it more knowledgeable and share it also to their fellow farmers. And I think that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurence. I'd like to now take questions for Laurence. Please, again, name yourself and your affiliation when you ask a question. So, any questions? And then if you could limit your question to one for the sake of time.
Thanks for that talk. I have a question regarding the approach you have about disseminating the information to the farmers. It seems to be a very top-down approach, a very vertical approach. Having lived in India for a long time, I'm aware that there they've been experimenting with an online platform which they call the Facebook for Farmers. And the idea there is that farmers themselves become communicators. So those farmers who have an inclination to do videos or to talk about their practices, their best practices, can put on this information on this platform and allow this to be disseminated to other farmers, which is often allows identifications of excellent communicators, because obviously some people are more inclined to communicate. And so I was wondering, have you also experimented a more horizontal type of communication where you allow the farmers to do their own communication?
Yes, we allow their own communication since what do you call this? Since after the development communication practitioner shared it to the local farmers, they are facilitating the information, or they are sharing the information through their messenger, since messenger is the most what do you call this, mostly used application or messaging app in the Philippines. And I think that is good thing, since having access to internet can really fasten or make the communication more faster.
Any other questions for Laurence? Back there. Starting,
Victor from Hokkaido University. My question is probably both very short but also probably very complex, and that is, you said that it is typical for agriculturists, for the common person, not really to trust people from the research background, people from the government. And that lack of trust is not, it has a reason, like the government and research perhaps has failed them multiple times. It's not like it's a baseless lack of trust. So my question would be, how do you address their justifiable lack of trust and try to build up trust in these communities?
I think it's really hard for the context in the Philippines to look at the lack of trust to the outside people or the government people or the development communication practitioner, since it's really a cultural thing that they can trust more on the neighbors or fellow farmers. That's the case, and I think it's again really hard to understand why they are why there is a lack of trust to development communication practitioner. Maybe it's also that they are at the top, and they are the farmers at the bottom.
Faz from Hiroshima University, also the Philippines. My question is that I'm interested with the paper you showed, that it's more important, if you use the local language, it will be more impactful. I was wondering if you try to work with groups outside of the central Luzon region and work with farm groups or communities, because in the Philippines we have like more than 100 different languages. So have you explored that kind of stuff?
We never tried that one, and that's really actually based on my recommendation on that paper is to translate more languages in different local languages in the Philippines to what do you call this, for the local community to learn as well the agricultural technologies offered by the university. It's really good to know that it's really good if the program coordinator or the program in charge specifically can offer more local language. But to answer your question, I think the only languages they are using is English and Filipino or Tagalog.
Thank you, Laurence, and I think the time is up here, so we'd like to, if you could give our round of applause. So, moving on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Negar Khalili from Kyushu University. She's also our student helper for our Japan Cycle Forum. She will be talking about why should every student give science communication a shot, and why should they? Like I should. If you're ready, please.
Hello everyone, good morning, sort of. My name is Negar Khalili. Thank you again for the introduction. I'm a graduate student here at Kyushu University. I'm studying cognitive science, and I've been trying a little bit of science communication, and I quite enjoyed it. So I thought it should be something that maybe everyone should try it. So that's my talk today. Why every student should give a shot to science communication. So a little bit of background. I'm originally from Iran, Tehran. I got a bachelor's in biotechnology, and I've been doing some public relation related stuff back home as a part-time job. And then I came to Japan 2 years and a half ago, and then I did an internship in science communication here. So I would like to share with you about how it's really looking like doing public relations science communication in Iran. Well, so some context. Well, the main language used is Persian, but globally, the main language used for science is English. So some people are comfortable with speaking English or understanding English, but this is not for everyone. So local students, local people, they might be interested to understand what is happening worldwide in science, but there is a gap here, there is a language barrier here. And there are several writers that try to translate the contents available abroad, the science happening abroad, to Persian to see. And so most of the outreach activities happening, almost 90%, 100% of them, magazines, events, all of them are in Persian. Well, one of the quite popular contents are actually students' science magazine. So my former university, we had 70 student magazines. And the magazine that I was working with, which was a fascinating experience for me, was called DNA Magazine Biotechnology, and it was quite old, I guess I can say. It's been there for 19 years, and and we've been trying to translate global news to the local language. Well, it has been published 4 issues a year. It's quarterly. 90% of the contents are in Persian, I can say, and the writers are students. We have non-guest writers, non-student guest writers as well, but this is a student-led initiative with the supervision of a faculty member. So our readers and our local audience are local university students, high school students, and I would like to talk a little bit with numbers. So how many people are reading us? Well, so we are a bit of a bunch of Gen Z people, so we are active on social medias. And our Instagram, we have 4,000 followers. And well, we put out an online version of it on Telegram channel. Last year, on average, we have 3,650 readers. And well, but this number made us pretty happy because we have 150, 200 local students, but we are reaching to broader audience, which is pretty nice thing for us. So, and then I get to Japan. Okay, so since November 2023, I joined as a science communication intern in Kyushu University Public Relation Initiative. So for me, it's the first time that instead of writing news releases based on just translating the English press release to Persian, this time I am in charge of preparing the press release or pictures in English. And it's also the first time that I'm seeing that science communication is not only aimed to the local society people, but also it can be used for international audience and also helping the university reputation, enhancing the university reputation. So, but it wasn't always like flowers and nice stuff. It has its own challenges, of course. Well, I am a science student. I'm often used to reading jargon, seeing jargons, and when it comes to writing, also simplifying and keep everyone engaged with the contents is not that easy. Another challenge I have, and maybe some people also in the room can relate to it, is I can use English, but it's not my native language. I'm not a native speaker, so I have been making lots of mistakes, and I will make a bunch of mistakes from now on, but I'm trying to improve it. So sometimes people might find it difficult to understand what I'm saying or what I'm writing, but I think I hope it gets better, and I'm really grateful for the guidance and mentorship. I had amazing teachers here, which I'm really grateful for that. Well, why I really like this experience, because what I really thought that this is nice to try. So, firstly, we are students. We have access to very good resources for learning materials, and those are stuff that maybe not much people have access to this. So we have this responsibility to share about it with people. Another thing is that there are some researchers that they have very high quality research, but not equally good at presenting, teaching, or communicating with their work. So I'm aiming and hoping to become a good researcher in the future. So I think there are a bunch of necessary soft skills to learn, such as networking, communicating, and finding communities, and which definitely science communication will bring a perfect learning opportunity. Another point is that whatever we do, especially in science, whatever our job is, specifically in science, having a community of people that share interests with us is very, very important. And finding the community is challenging. Well, since long time, I've been always thinking that I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. There should be a bunch of people that are doing the stuff that I share the interest in, but it's not. It's been a bit difficult to find them. Okay, I like numbers, so I try to put some numbers. Well, I use Method a lot, so not a lot, but anyway. So I try to gather and collect the publications, monthly publications from different universities from PubMed, because I was curious, like how many researchers are doing the work, how many researchers are published. So actually, you can see that we have various universities, and these universities are publishing hundreds of papers. Well, if you want to find them, how should we really do that? For instance, I'm looking for a research paper or researcher from Kyushu University, let's say. I'll start with Google Scholar. It's pretty widely used globally, right? So when we check, for example, Kyushu University, It has 1,409 users, faculty member, researchers, students included. And then if you want to see the exact number, we might can check the university webpage, which we have 2,809 researchers, students not included actually. But if we keep searching, we can see, for instance, I've never heard about Research Map before coming to Japan. It seems a local platform that mostly local scientists are using. Actually, there are 3,092 researchers currently permitted in QDAG. So it seems there is local niches, and it is difficult for international researchers to learn about Japanese scientists. So I think it's really important to address that if students, researchers be more available online, share about their research publicly, it's really easier to find them and enhance their visibility. Though, again, I like numbers, I try to gather some numbers. So if we use those list of published papers from PubMed, just this one using the Kyushu University, then I was wondering, and I tried to use altmetrics to see if these research are tweeted or appeared on newsfeed, and I wanted to see like how is the situation, like how many people are talking about it, mentioning it. So, well, I should just give you a disclaimer. This is just a rough idea. This is not essentially precise. Well, we can see that there are many studies happening. The orange line is this total publication, monthly. So it's something like 200 publication per month. And then lots of communication is happening. This is for Kyushu University, by the way, and it's mostly life sciences. But the thing is, actually, not all of the studies are communicated. Well, obviously, it's pretty clear by just seeing it with numbers. Feels better. So what is happening is that the orange bar is the total publication, and then the blue bar is showing the papers that are mentioned once, and then we can see a difference. And well, there is a number of papers that are never mentioned, or at least we couldn't find that they have been mentioned at least once. So average publications are 200 publications per month. You can say approximately 50% of it, half of it is not really communicated at all. So what we as students, and also we can hear from researchers is doing good research is very time consuming, and also communication itself is time consuming. Well, there are loads of graduate students specifically that are in charge of the research happening. And on the other hand, we cannot solely rely on the university PR office because they have a limited number of staff and limited number of science communicators. So perhaps students can sort of help to address this gap. I really like this quote. It says, "Science is not finished until it's complicated." Okay, so when it comes to students, yes, we can ask the students that okay, we can take the lead, we can do whatever we want on our own, but however, I think we need structured training. We need like a formal training, some more assistance from university side. Well, I was looking around, and well, there are several good initiatives from different institutions in Japan. Some extra credits, or like there are like a career development program, laboratories that are working in science communication, exchange programs, and so on. And I hope we can see more examples such as this initiatives. Well, this brings us to an end. So, outreach and communication is essential and is part of our science, doing science. On the other hand, there are many research findings that might people might not hear about it. And also, the students are one of the main workforces that are doing the work. So I think they should actually take the responsibility of sharing it to some point. And also for students, doing science communication is not only helping them to, not them, I'm a student, helping us to learn about the soft skills, but also it can help us to strengthen the communication with our local communities, and as well as that if we can learn to explain our research in simple words, it can help us when we are trying to have international collaboration or more interdisciplinary collaboration.
Thank you, Negar. Any questions for Negar?
Hi, my name is Akram. I work for a basic corporation and a company. I have the same, I think, problem that you mentioned, which is localizing science, changing it basically from English into, for you it's Persian, for me it's Arabic. How do you communicate with fellow students? How do you find these people who are interested in doing such things? Because maybe for Arabic is a bit different because, you know, the Middle East is quite big and Arabic speakers are quite big. So finding local people, what are the techniques that you use to kind of localize these students who are interested in, you know, localizing science?
I need to confirm something first. So your question is about like our home countries or when we are international students in other countries?
Home countries. You're here, but probably people who are translating are home, right?
So for my experience back home was, I think it helps if we give a student some incentives. For instance, one of the incentives we had was like we've been sort of having this competition that if they write something, we're gonna give them a prize. Or if we have some events, sometimes we're like, okay, the events and the talks are nice, but we can make it a bit more fun, kind of cheap. Or for me, we had like a bunch of student club activities happening and talking to people and finding people that are already available to put some extra time. To put some extra time was really helpful. I don't know if I answered your question, but it's a very good question.
Thank you, Negar. It's excellent and it's very, very good. Thank you very much. And I have a question because you are Iranian and you come to Japan and you do science communications in third countries in your second language, which is really great. And you said that, yeah, you do a lot of mistakes, yes. And so you have these difficulties. How do you cope with this difficulty? So is there anything that you can recommend to like fellow science communication students?
Thank you so much for your kind words and very good question actually. So I think I'm still learning how to cope with it, if I'm going to be honest, but one thing is I try to communicate with people and I think not everyone is willing to communicate, not everyone is but there are few people or many people, some people who are communicating, so I prefer to have deep connections with them. And they're very helpful people around us. And also when it comes to second language, I think I'm just trying to just accept the reality that it might be challenging and time would help with that. But I think languages are interesting and people can learn with them. Yeah, definitely helps. Of course.
You have the answer.
Yes, Peter from Okada University. So I actually was very interested in the slide you showed showing that, at least in English, from Kyushu University, over half of the research is not covered. And as a public relations specialist at Okada University, we have a similar issue where we get approximately 200 to 250 requests a year, and in English we cover about 50. But I would like your thoughts on my stand on the matter, which is not all scientific papers need to be covered, because We are doing public relations, and public relations is, how do you put it? Involves public, if you will. So there is a question of, are your target audience interested in the matter? I will concede that if there's a large number of papers being missed out, you might miss out on some important research. But on the whole, what are your thoughts on that matter?
Thank you so much for a very interesting comment. So I understand your point. Yes, maybe we don't maybe public relation part of the university, or maybe university website doesn't have to cover all type of research. Maybe some of them are review articles or something like that. But the point is, those papers, there is an effort of someone who has been putting many months of their, let's say, their life onto their students and their learning process, but there is a time and lots of effort. So I feel like at least it should be communicated in a very tiny format of, I don't know, it can be tweet. It's actually needs effort, but yeah, those, at least some people who might be interested in their work, they can find it easier. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for a great talk. It's very happy. And I have a question. So I noticed two of the quotes that you listed seem to think of science as something that happens and then gets communicated. But I wonder, from a student perspective, I see that you're going to a situation where the communication doesn't just come at the end. And I think also with the presentation by Yahara Sensei, you mentioned that there was very early on sort of stakeholder engagement and communication and co-creation about science also from the beginning. So what do you think? Where should science communication begin in a project?
Thank you so much. Well, I think it was a question and answer at the same time. Yes. But yeah, I mean, we communicate with each other when we are starting the work, right? But I think
when we talk about science communication, maybe in this case we mean talking to not just the lab or lab mates or people that we study with, maybe reaching out to the community. And so, yeah, do you think there's a place where students could start communicating with the public even before they do their research project?
Okay, I think you answered again, because you mentioned Yahara Sensei and the citizen science projects. Yeah, definitely there should be some stuff we can deal with, community to help us. Right. Sorry, I couldn't answer my
Thank you, Negar.
Thank you so much.
So our final talk for the morning is by Aurovrata, Venet. And he will be presenting us about promoting science and engineering among marginalized slum children of Chennai, India.
Hello, good morning everyone. And just before I start, I would like to really thank the Japan SciComm Forum for the opportunity to give you a talk here. It was quite unexpected, nice pleasant surprise to be going through Fukuoka and to be able to be here presenting this talk to you. So today I'm going to talk about communicating science to marginalized communities, specifically a project I did in Chennai, South India, which was to report on field trips that we planned for some orphan kids from Chennai slums. Just out of curiosity, does everybody know what a slum is? Because yesterday I was talking to a couple of people and they didn't understand what a slum was. Is that clear? There's no, okay, good. So, who am I? My name is Aurovrata. It's an Indian name. I grew up in South India in a place called Pondicherry, which was a tiny French colony while the rest of India was British. And it remained French until 1954, well after India's independence. It has retained a very French character as such. And I studied, I did an undergraduate in physics in London, Imperial College, and this is the place where I did my first steps into science communication, where I took an actual course in scientific journalism. And just a point for Negar, when I was doing my course in scientific journalism, out of maybe 1,000 second-year students who were offered the course, there was only 3 of us in the entire university. So I think that is also one of the issues, is that there is a lack of recognition of the importance of science communications within scientists' community. And to come back to Jan's question as well, I believe that where do you start? It starts with the scientists doing the research themselves. If they themselves don't see the need to communicate, they're not going to come forward to their PR team and say, hey, I got a great idea, I want to communicate, right? And they'll probably wait until the paper is published. Anyway, moving on. I went on to do a PhD in astrophysics, and this is where I got my first paid job as a science communicator. I was working for the BBC Horizon TV science show. Maybe some of you are aware of the Horizon show. So we were paid to answer calls at the end of the show, and people could phone in. Lots of children would phone in and ask questions about the show. I went on to work for the European Space Agency in Madrid, in Spain, and there I joined the ESA School Lectures program as well, which continued my experience in communicating science specifically to children. This is where my real interest is. In 2006, I came back to India because this is where I'm from, and I've been continuing doing science lectures to schools, and this is a recent interaction with some 4th and 5th graders in New Delhi. So, on to the topic of this talk. In 2009, I was inspired by a series of articles that came out in the news in India, which was about a school that was being carried out under a flyover bridge. It was even picked up by UNESCO. And what started off as a single man teaching a couple of migrant children. So there is New Delhi, which is the capital city of India, has got a lot of migrant population that come in from the surrounding fields. When their fields are being sowed, they come into the city to take up construction jobs while there is nothing to do on the farm as such. And their children therefore miss out on a lot of education because they're not in their hometowns. They just end up playing under derelict construction sites. And this man decided he was going to do something about it. And what started off as just 2 kids quickly picked up, and he started to have other volunteers join him. They painted a blackboard on one of the facades of the flyovers. And today they've had a tremendous turnover, and they've got 7 parallel classes. They've got funds to actually give it a fresh coat of painting, and it's actually a very successful project. So I was inspired to do something similar with my experience in science communication to children, and I really wanted to target and to reach out to some children who just don't have the opportunity to be able to have any education, but specifically exposure to the kind of technology or science that can make a child dream about wanting to achieve something in their lives. And so the first thing I did was to actually identify a suitable NGO that was working with children from marginalized communities. And I came across this Shabnam Resources in Chennai, which is, the director is Mr. Aurele. And he was working specifically with children that were rescued from bonded labor camps. So you got a lot of these camps where parents are paid a pittance, and it's really modern day slavery as such. And the children there have got actually no facilities to go to school and are often enrolled into actually child labor right from an early age. So this is a really pitiful existence. They rescue these children, and they give them a shelter, and they start giving them some basic education. And so the challenge here was, without the mastery of the local language, obviously these children don't understand English, and specifically without any school education. So we take for granted that when we talk to a child, they have a basic understanding of some level of education, some mathematics, some concepts of space, of technology, but here none of this is there. So really the question is, how do you communicate science non-verbally, right? And it so happened that I was living in Chennai, which is very close to where I grew up in Pondicherry. And in Chennai is India's spaceports. Yeah, just out of curiosity, has anybody ever experienced a rocket launch live? Wonderful. Just one person, two of us in the entire room. If you get a chance, and here in Kyushu, south of Kyushu, you have a tremendous facility. I highly recommend you do that at least once in your lifetime as science communicators, because the experience is really overwhelming. Believe me, you will not regret it. You will probably go a second or third time even. So I wanted to actually see if I could take some children to this science sports, the space sport, sorry. And in order to do this, I needed to raise some funds. And Chennai just happens to also be the industrial powerhouse in India, with a lot of multinational corporation companies settled there. And a lot of these companies have got expats who have come in for setting up these companies and working in these construction, in these factories. And so the idea was to actually do some interactions with these expats. We did a series of talks, science communication again, on the Indian space program for kids and adults. We did picnic and visit to the spaceport with some of these families. We did a session on Indian wine tasting, and here's a picture of all of us tasting Indian wine. And each time we were selling a ticket, and we raised a small amount towards this project. And in fact, a lot of these people were really taken by this idea and would contribute extra funds out of their own will. And so we were able to actually do a trip to Sriharikota, which is the name of the Indian spaceport, and it's actually located, so you see, Pondicherry is here where I grew up in South India, and then we have Chennai, which is a big city in just further north. And about 3 hours drive, there's a place called Pulikat Lake, and this little red island, the dotted red island, is where Sriharikota spaceport is located. It's a beautiful location. So as I said, it's 3 hours north of Chennai. It's the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, which is the official title of the Indian Space Program. It's actually one of the top 3 places in the world to actually witness a rocket launch because of the scenic beauty and also the fact that you're allowed to get so close to the launch itself. The Indian rocket, the PSLV, launches multiple times a year, so there were quite a few opportunities to go. And this rocket is actually very cost effective. It's very popular for launching cheap satellites into space. Even the Japanese, a Japanese private venture launched one of their satellites with the PSLV. And beforehand, we actually briefed the children, so we had some people communicate with them, and we gave them a list of topics that we were going to talk about and what they were going to witness over there. So they were actually prepared for the trip. And here are a couple of pictures of us actually going out. We rented a bus. The man in the middle in the wheelchair is the director of the NGO. And the children were really excited to go to the thing. We did a second field trip, and this time was to the Yamaha factory. So Yamaha has got a big manufacturing motorcycle factory in Chennai. This one was sponsored by the CSR program. CSR stands for Corporate Social Responsibility. This is part of Indian law that all these companies have to put some amount of their profits towards social initiatives. And this really went well. The kids really enjoyed their trip there. And in fact, the director of the factory was so enthused by the project that he himself gave out gifts of bags and caps and bits and pieces to the children who were really thrilled by that. So we did 2 basic field trips. And one of the things we wanted to do was to gauge the impact of this. I mean, how do we actually go about figuring out, was it worth the time and the money we spent and such? And it's a difficult task to actually assess without a long-term follow-up or without actually having these kids in a classroom where we can follow up. So we actually decided to ask the children to express what they'd experienced in paintings. And so we had some beautiful set of paintings that came out, and here are a couple of samples. I really love the one there in the top left, on a picnic out on the moon or Mars, possibly. So what are the lessons learned from this project? Communicating science can overcome language barriers. I believe that strongly. It's just a question of determination. Children takeaway is actually quite a valuable knowledge. I do feel that children, even without words, are inspired by just visual experiences. And the financial contribution is actually relatively easy to obtain, so this is not a barrier either. You get a lot of positive willingness to contribute from people out there, and it's actually a very joyful experience. I'm a witness to that, and I can judge. Any questions?
Thank you, Bella. Any questions? Please raise your hand.
Hi, I'm Libby from Kyushu University. Thank you very much for your talk. And I was wondering, the field trip and like fundraising thing sounds really exciting and fun, but do you think what are like the more cost-effective ways that's more applicable to like the rest of the world, and then you can use it in, well, not only in India, or like, let's say, are there any lower cost ways to communicate science non-verbally to children?
Well, there are definitely more cost-effective ways, and especially in the long term, if you want to do science communication, just with printed materials, let alone field trips and such. But again, I think some of these more cost-effective methods require an infrastructure on which you can rely, to establish a communication. So whether it be a school program, a classroom, a teacher, someone who's going to be the relay of that communication on the long term. And if you're able to spread out your communication over the long term, then obviously it becomes very cost effective. Does that answer your question?
Heather?
Hi, thank you. Heather Young from OIST. I love the work you're doing. I think it resonates with many of us. Do you have any calls to action for this group, either with this sort of work or in the bigger picture? What would you ask this group or challenge this group as far as their thinking and working?
That's an excellent question. In fact, I'm looking to have a chat with Brian and Yurka as to see that whether something can be done in India as well with regards to science communication. More specifically for children, that's a little tricky, obviously, because I think it requires a more dedicated investment when it comes to communicating with marginalized children. And this is really something that's to be done at a local level. You really need to have local partners to do this. This is where I feel like CSR, for example, can play a major role. And they do. I mean, in India, there is a lot of similar programs. It's not the first time such things happen. And often you see companies engaging on the long term with a school or with a program with children. I just think that as individuals, wherever we are in the world, we should always think that science communication is not always about what is easy, but really to try and think out of the box and go out of the way to try and contribute some of our knowledge to people who don't always have access to the amazing resources that we take for granted and such.
Thank you for the great talk. I'm Kira from Miracle, a museum in Tokyo. I'm very much curious about the motivation of kids they might have in because you're offering a variety of programs for slum kids, right? But you feel like they're usually pretty much proactive and very much motivated to learn pure science, or like they are more probably motivated for going out and going for a picnic or something like that, or like more like fun part of the activities, just like pure motivation.
I think the initial motivation is definitely the fun part, going out on the picnic. I mean, that's always, for kids, especially kids who spend their lifetime in these kids were orphans, so they spent a lot, their time in an orphanage without any parents as such. But once they've actually had the experience, I think there is something else that takes over after that. And this NGO do follow up. They have a space where the kids come around once a week, and they do activities, they do crafts, they do paintings, they do, for some of the older children, they also do follow-up tuition exercises and stuff like this. And then there's definitely interest, and kids are keen on following on what's going on with evolution of science and rockets and things like this. They see it on TV, and now it's quite accessible everywhere. They see on TV, they see it on YouTube. A lot of people have mobile phones, so there is a lot of access to regular information. What is not there is someone at home can explain to them, what is this? Why are they launching a rocket? Why is it going to space? What are they going to do? These are questions which are often not included in the video or the YouTube or the TV that they're watching, right? So actually having someone to whom they can ask those questions, I think that's a really important factor. Thank you. We can interact afterwards.
Hello, this is Ellie from Kumamoto University. Do you have any follow-up reports about how are there any changes happen after joining these activities for the children? What kind of changes about their mindset on the interest about science? If there is, please share with us, if you don't mind.
So limited, since I've been there for the last 6 months or so, but there is there was a request to do more, so I keep on getting requests to do more activities like this and to raise funds for other parallel activities as well, especially these tuition cases. So yeah, fundraising is actually quite time consuming. So I don't have much opportunity to do follow-up activities as such. But there is an interest, there's always an interest from the children to do more. I mean, who doesn't love a good picnic, right?
So thank you very much, Aurovrata.